Hey guys, this is Otaku Oniel here, and welcome back to my forge. Now in this video, I'll be doing an overview of all the essential tools and supplies that you will need to get the best results for your Gundam model kits, or any type of model kits that you may have. These tools and supplies are important to have if you're deciding to take your skills to the next level in terms of custom weathering, custom painting, as well as adding custom LED lights to really make your models look cool. So let's start with the most important tool of all, and that is having a good pair of snippers and cutting out your model pieces from the runners in your kit. Okay, so here are a couple of my own snippers that I want to show you guys, including my signature Gundam snippers, which I purchased online from my good friends at the usagundamstore.com. Normally, I use my other generic pair for my projects when starting from the bottom. And I have a couple of runners here that I want to show you guys from my most recent custom build of the Master Grade Gundam 00 Kyrios, just to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. There you go. And I really got to tell you, way back in the beginning, over a year ago, when I was completely new to model building, I did not use a pair of snippers to cut out my model pieces. Instead, I used an X-Acto knife, which is crazy because it was tedious, frustrating, and dangerous. So for those of you new people, be sure you don't make that same mistake like I did. Now you are, however, going to need an X-Acto blade for a lot of different projects, like cutting out water slide decals, which are normally included in some model kits. And I have an example here to show you of what I normally use, which comes in a case with assorted blades that are interchangeable. Now, the next thing you're going to need is a good assortment of filers, and there are many different kinds and sizes to choose from. You can purchase these from a number of online sites like Amazon and eBay, but personally for me, I usually purchase mine at newtypehq.com because they have the best sales and discounts on high quality tools, supplies, and accessories. Okay guys, so here I am back at my workshop, and here are all the tools and supplies I have so far. Here are some other essential tools that I want to show you, including a hand drill, which is really handy for when you install LED lights into your model. Now the LED wiring has to go through somewhere, right? So you will need to drill tiny holes in the right areas to funnel the wiring. And you can drill these holes in different sizes too. For that, you will need a drill bit set. The best one I would recommend is the one from Dremel. You can either purchase these at a store like Walmart for around $20, or you could just buy it online through a site like Amazon.com. On eBay, you might get lucky sometimes. In addition, you will also need something more powerful as a backup, and I'm talking about the cordless rotary power drill Dremel 8220. Now this bad boy comes included with a rechargeable 12V max ion lithium battery, and yes, the charging dock does come included in the set along with a mini toolbox containing an assortment of sanding bits and sanding discs. It's a decent selection. Nothing too extravagant. I bought this specific Dremel set online, Amazon.com, and I paid between $150 to $200, which is a fair price in my opinion. Next thing you will need is a good pair of tweezers, and for two main reasons too. When applying water slide decals on the surface of your model pieces, using tweezers will make the job much easier. Here's a couple of tweezers that I generally use to get the job done. And number two, you will need tweezers to carefully pull the LED wiring through tight spots in your models when you funnel it all through. The next thing you are probably going to need, and this is optional, but I make this an imperative, are precision pliers. And these are good for a variety of things in my custom builds. A lot of times when I have trouble snapping my model pieces together, I use this to clamp it shut without breaking or damaging anything. I also use this as a grounding tool to reinforce any wiring connections I make for my LED lights. Now, I know that most kits do not require any gluing as far as piecing together your models, but at some point you will need to use super glue or some kind of epoxy for any kind of custom upgrade work that you want to add to your model. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. Some metal etching upgrade pieces that I added to this model piece, and I used Gorilla Super Glue in a precision bottle. Now, for securing LED lights in specific areas in your model kits, Gorilla Super Glue is not recommended. You want to use this glue from Bob Smith Industries, along with an accelerant solution, and this glue set works best for securing your LED lights. Hands down, no complaint there. Okay, and now we're going to move on to the accessories, and I'm going to start with the Airbrush. Now, there are many different kinds and brands to choose from, but I generally prefer the Master Airbrush G22, which I think is flexible to tackle any type of paint job. You're going to need to properly clean this thing before and after its use if you really want your airbrushes to last a long time. So here in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how it's done. First, you need to disassemble your airbrush. Start by unscrewing the back end counterclockwise, and then inside you need to unfasten the needle and then carefully remove the needle by pulling it out so that we can then clean it. Next, you're going to lubricate the needle with a solution that comes in a bottle called needle juice from Badger. But first, swab the needle with an alcoholic cleaning pad to remove any dust or paint that might have built up on the needle. And there we go. Now we can lube it up with the needle juice. Now I do this process using a folded paper towel with about 5 or 6 thrubs. And there you go. The needle is clean, and now we can carefully reinsert the needle back into the housing, fasten it, and screw it in the back end. It's also a good habit to always clean the nozzle too, by taking that apart and clean those parts up really good too with a good Q-tip drenched with rubbing alcohol. Now, after you finish airbrush painting your model pieces, you'll have to flesh out the paint from your airbrush, and for that you're going to need three things, including a dual air compressor. And I have here, just as a show and tell for the rest of you guys, the TC320 dual air compressor from Master Airbrush. This one I bought online for around $100, which is not bad at all, and the work performance this air compressor has given me lasted a very long time. I had this one for about a year and it still hasn't given me any issues so far. Now this compressor does come included with a hose that connects to supply air to your airbrush, and there's also a gauge that controls the PSI, or the amount of airflow for your airbrush. And I usually set the gauge to about 30 PSI, which is about average. The next thing you will also need is an airbrush cleaning solution, and this particular brand I highly recommend to effectively flesh out all the paint from inside your airbrush. And that is the Iwata Medea Airbrush Cleaner. The third thing you will need is a cleaning tank for your airbrush, because after all, the paint has to go somewhere when you flesh it out, right? So let's start by making sure that your airbrush is connected to the compressor. And it is. Then you insert your airbrush into the cleaning tank. Next, you're going to pour the cleaning solution into the chamber of your airbrush. Turn on your air compressor and then pull the trigger back on your airbrush to flush out all the excess paint into the cleaning tank. I usually repeat this process 2 to 3 times, and then I'll flush out the airbrush again a couple of more times with just water in a measuring cup. Finally, you're going to pull back the airbrush trigger, force some airflow, and let that go for a good minute or two to make sure that there's no paint inside. And that's about it. Now your airbrush should be clean as a whistle and ready for the next use. All right, ladies and gents, that about does it for this video tutorial, but please be sure to stick around for my next video, as I will be going over the type of acrylic paints that I use, as well as the brands that I recommend in getting the best results for your model kits. If you like what you see here, please be sure to post and share your thoughts and comments down below. Click that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Domo arigato and nam yoho renge kyo.